Welcome to Release to Revive. This is where we talk about you and your energy, how to manage your energy physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Hello. Welcome back. I'm Jackie, your host. This is Release to Revive, where we explore different ways to up-level and elevate your energy. So today's guest is someone who discovered the power of increasing her energy and zest for life through clearing the space around her and uncovering the true power that lies beneath all the stuff we surround ourselves with. Kylie has been on her very own decluttering and organizing journey for a good part of the last 5 years, she says, and has turned her newly found passion into a business to help others emerge from under their stuff. I love this. To then lighten their load and increase their energy and zest for life. Like, what more do you want, right? We keep buying things and things, and I think this is the answer for literally our culture's way to shift people's mindsets. So let's hear from Kylie Thorley. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Jackie.
Yay. Oh man, I remember like coming across you firstly, and I was like, this woman needs to be, I need to chat to her because I've been on my own journey of decluttering, right? So yeah, I have stumbled upon the blocks. I've stumbled upon all the things that come with trying to do it. And yeah, do you want to tell us maybe just to start, like who you are, your mum, I know, tell us how old your kids are, and also like what made you come across this and what made you start kind of decluttering your life, firstly.
Sure, yeah. So yes, as you said, I am a mum. I'm a mum of one who is now 13. So
Woo!
I know. It's crazy to have a teenager in the house. And my husband and I, we also have a plumbing business. And that's, I guess, where you could say it started is
Yeah.
when I had my son, I gave up my career as a mortgage broker and I took over his business. And I am a creative person. So when I took it over, I changed his name, I rebranded, I got out there onto social media and I built his business from the background. And it grew and grew, and that created a lot of stress and overwhelm in our own lives because our office is, we have a shed at the back of the property, and that's where the office is located. So there's no real escape.
Mm,
And I guess what happened was life just got taken over
yeah.
by that. And my natural way of coping, and I can't tell you even today why or how, but my natural way of coping was to start clearing stuff in the house. So it was like when I came home, and that's in inverted commas,
Yeah. Yeah. For those that can't
upstairs.
see.
Yeah. When I came home, it was, I don't know, it just became a coping mechanism, creating more space around me because I wasn't feeling that within the business and at some point even within my marriage. So yeah, that's where it started. And then from there I started an Instagram page because I was so excited about doing the social media for his business and what I'd learned.
Yeah.
So I started some challenges just in general for people, and people were just eating it up. Like it was crazy. So, and then people were asking me if I could help them, or they knew somebody who needed some help. And it just really built from there. And I love it.
Yeah. I love the idea of challenges because I feel like that's kind of what kicks me off as well in particular
Yeah.
areas of the house.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
It really does. It really helps motivate people because it's, I started with like 7-day challenges and they're really easy. And it's when it, and I always,
Committable, I call it.
yeah, committable, exactly. And I started, it wasn't a challenge, it was a challenge for a room or a space. So I really sort of narrowed down and focused on that one space because that then also made it quite achievable.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was always fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool. And would you say, like, do you also go to people's homes? Is that right?
I
As well
do.
as
Yeah.
online?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I do consults online. So that's more for people who who don't want me to come past their front door, or who don't live where I live.
Yeah.
And we go through like where they're at, what they're wanting to achieve, and then we work out a bit of a plan of action. So I'll create like a plan of action for them online.
Yeah.
And here I live in Townsville in North Queensland. So here I do actually physically go into people's homes. I do like a minimum 4 hours hands-on packages with people where I don't go in there and do it for them. I do it with them. And my whole goal is to leave them with the skills so they can continue doing it themselves, because it's not a situation where you get someone in and it's done. Life is full of stuff. And
it'll
when
just be a backlash otherwise. Hey,
absolutely.
Yeah, like binge eating.
Exactly. That's exactly. It's like a diet.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't learn how to maintain it, it doesn't last. So that's my main goal, is working with them. So having them committed to working alongside me, and then teaching them along the way how they can continue and how they can maintain our good work that we did together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Would you you obviously have a few steps for this, but what's the emotional or like the block that you find a lot or most people come across when they do kind of start with this journey? Is there something that you've observed?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I find with people is the overwhelm. It's the overwhelm seems to paralyze people. And just by them taking that step, I actually saw a customer this morning, this beautiful lady who was very anxious to meet me, which I would like to think I made her feel comfortable pretty much straight away, and that there's no judgment in the process, and it's just sitting and listening to where she's at and why she wants to do it.
Yeah.
But her thing, and this happens often, was I just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
It gets too much. And what happens is when you've got clutter, and it's not necessarily clutter of the same items or clutter of the same sort, that's when I guess the brain starts to become a bit jumbled, and it's like, literally, I don't know where to start. I don't know what I can do with this pile or where I can put it. You know what I mean? Like it's just a jumbled mess.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean the whole house is that way, but it just means that there's these piles that people just don't really have any clue. And the other thing is people, this quite surprised me, is people often say to me, I don't even know how to organize. And that's something I like to teach people and show them that it's actually easier than they realize.
Yeah, because I think like with the whole Instagram and Pinterest out there, you see pictures of an organized space. But is it sustainable? Like, I feel like you would be some more down to earth ways that actually work down the track too.
Absolutely. Like you do see, you come across a lot of pretty looking pantries and pretty looking linen cupboards.
Yeah.
But
ideal world, right?
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, I've actually gone in and I've gone in to work in homes that have had that done before. They've had someone come in and do the pretty, and it absolutely is not sustainable. It doesn't work. It looks great for a before and after shot, but it doesn't work with real life, and it doesn't work when you've got the family involved. You know what I mean? So I'm always looking for ways. No one's house and no one's space is the same. And the whole goal is to actually make it work for them and their families.
Yeah.
It's not a uniform thing, I can tell you that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it would also depend on like what your goal is, right? And what your because I'm huge. I'm a bit of a habit geek, and how to hone and prime the environment to help me stick to the habits I want.
Yep.
So, because it's cues, right? Like the basic example I always think of is the TV remote. Like when people see the TV remote, they might turn the TV on and then they end up watching TV instead of doing what they wanted to do. Like classic, right? I remember hearing a quote when I began my journey in this, and it was like, your mind can only see what it's letting go of, but it can't fathom or can't measure what it will gain. And I really resonated with that, because it's that uncertainty a little bit, right? You got to first let go of something to make room for the new and room for what you actually want.
And that's part of what you said before. So I've also learned that through this process, that that's absolutely when you start to create these habits and then you continue, like in this particular journey. So when you actually start to create the habits of creating space, you don't realize that until you do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that is a very relevant quote. And, you know, I can't believe it. I guess the best analogy to describe this exact thing is like, you know, your cup is not just full, but it's overflowing. All you're focused on is the overflow and potentially the mess it's going to make. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But when you stop the flow or you start to empty the cup, then there's space in that cup to be able to increase your opportunities or, you know, change what's going to go in there. Do you know what I mean? So you actually in the space to invite those new opportunities in and to be able to start to explore. Like that's what I've discovered.
Yeah. Yeah, I always think of it because I'm like creative too, the white space we call it in design. And you need that white space to make everything else work. Otherwise, it's just kind of like, yeah, like you said, overwhelming visually and mentally and then emotionally too in the end.
Yeah.
A spiral,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And it's a mental block.
Yeah.
You know,
So
it's
when
if
you
you
then
don't.
like help people through this process, what do you find is like, I imagine I feel a sense of relief when I've kind of cleared a space or even clarity for like my next step into the future or like whatever I'm doing. What is it that you see mostly in people that shifts?
So I see so much. I have literally seen people's physical appearances change. I know that sounds crazy, but
I love that.
it blew me away when I had this client that I worked with last year, and I worked with her for a solid 6 months. And
Wow.
she had actually come along to a couple of workshops that I held. And so she was committed. Like I had 2 different workshops. She came along to both. And like through those workshops, I spoke about how, you know, this is all about arming you with the skills and helping you to get started yourself, like self-motivation. And she rang me afterwards and said, oh, look, I know that it's all about me doing it myself, but would you help me? So I did. I went over and we worked together for 6 months. So it was a big job. But literally, Jackie, every time she opened the door, she looked different. I know it's crazy, but she did. She just looked lighter and healthier and even happier. And the other thing that I noticed was as we chipped through like each of her rooms and we cleared and organized, her sense of humor started to emerge. And that was one of the most beautiful things. As we started to clear the space around her, she started to relax and like she just started to, she just had this fantastic sense of humor.
I have this thought in my head. I remember Kyle Cease. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a comedian. And he just popped into my head because I remember him saying it was more about clearing mental space that he talks about because it's like, you know, self-development, you meditate, you clear the space. And he had this analogy, which makes me laugh every time, that people think they are the poo and really they're just the human letting go of the poo.
No, that's a good analogy.
They're holding on so tight because they're like, it's their identity. It's like what all they know. And then finally when they realize, oh, I'm okay without it, then they're like,
well, actually that's a really good analogy. I can see that.
I'm sorry about the poo jokes, but
and then they naturally become lighter. Like
but it's like it really is like you were saying as well. You need to do it to understand it, to feel it, like the difference. Even if it's just the smallest thing, hey, which what I love about your simple concept that you share a lot on Instagram is that 2-minute rule. Do you want to actually touch on that? I love that.
Look, I'm loving it. I'm using it in my life every day these days. It just helps the process. It either helps if you haven't started and you're not sure how to get started, it's a great place to start. And if you have started, like say yourself and me, like it's a great place to maintain things. So the concept behind it is it's the 2-minute rule. So anything that takes 2 minutes or less, it's recommended that you just do it. Just get in and do it. Because seriously, it's 2 minutes. We're not talking 15 minutes. We're not talking half an hour. We're not talking half a day. We're talking 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's a habit. Like, it's another habit that you've got to get into, but it's an easy one because it's just 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And what that does is 2 minutes can save you a bucket load of time. You know, for example, the dishes in the sink. You know, if the dishes in the sink stay there and then you don't put them away, and then more dishes end up in the sink, and then more, what happens visually and what happens in the mind? So the mind is very good at playing tricks on us, and the bigger a task looks, the mind will tell you that's going to take forever, that's too hard. So that's like a block, and it stops you from doing things.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just did 2 minutes and you put away a couple of items, or you put a couple of items into the dishwasher, you never have that block. It's like think of it as a flow. You're allowing things to continue to flow rather than coming up against those blocks. It's just such a great concept. 2 minutes could be putting one item away in its home where it belongs. There's so much that you can do in 2 minutes.
Yeah. And I just feel like it's like I'm the kind of person that loves ticking things off my list. So even but not even like physically, if I don't even have the list, just being like, yes, done. Like, I did it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Especially with like those annoying things that like you just walk past all the time, and you're like, oh yeah. And there's that subtle reminder in the back of your head where you're like, oh yeah, I got to do that. Oh yeah. On top of like your current urgent list. And I'm always like, why don't I just do it now? And then I'm like free from the burden.
Exactly. Because the burden doesn't leave you. Like you said, it's hanging there in the back of your mind. Like it's just adding to everything else. Whereas like, don't add it. Add it. Like, release it now.
Yeah.
Release it in 2 minutes. And the thing you said something just then, it's that feeling you get from 2 minutes. So, you know, I find with some people, some of the feedback I've got is when they do actually start to apply the 2 minute rule, what it does is it actually creates excitement and motivation. So 2 minutes might turn into, I could go for 5, or, you know, I could keep going for 15. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the whole idea behind 2 minutes was really just to get you started and to get you motivated. And then from there, you know, who knows? You might end up doing a whole space, but it's up to you. The rule is at the end of 2 minutes, so set your timer at the end of 2 minutes. It's up to you. You can either tools down, finish what you're doing, or you can continue.
Yeah.
Whatever you choose.
Yeah. Well, I remember just like last week when I was like, okay, I'm going to do this 2 minute rule with like paperwork that was piling up for me. Because I'm a bit of a scribbler as well. Like, when I have ideas, I just write it all down, and then it ends up being this like pile of, anyway. Welcome to my world. And then I put off going through that because I'm like, oh, and then I got to action it. But what I did is I started with 2 minutes, like you said, and I was like, right, 2 minutes, clear some of the papers, get through them, sort them, bin them, whatever. And then instead, because I'm a new mum, like my little bubba needed me, so then I did that. But I ended up on that same day, because I did the first 2 minutes, and I was like, yes, I got through some. I ended up doing like 6 rounds of 2 minutes. Like, it wasn't even like I did the 2 minutes and then kept going because I was in flow, but it was more like, oh, well, I did it before. Let's do another 2. And I was just so excited to get through the whole pile. So I would just like find 2 minutes here and there to keep going and do it later.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it, is that, you know, yours wasn't a continuous flow, but it was a flow throughout the day. And like, you got that one whole space done. Like, that is the magic of it. Then. Yeah, exactly. It's doable and achievable without the stress and overwhelm. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And I feel like, because I like to talk to a lot of ambitious mums, and that's what I am anyway. So if you're joining me on that ride, then I find applying that to like the business side too. Do you find that as a business owner? Like, even just like the silly little, you know, sometimes you don't feel like posting on Instagram, but it really just takes 2 minutes sometimes to create that post and just get it out there and like.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, and sometimes I will just look at, like, sometimes it could be the end of the day and I'm like, oh, I just haven't done that thing. And
Mm.
so, I used to walk away and it used to feel like a weight, oh,
Yeah.
I haven't done that thing. But since applying, like, yes, I do actually use the 2-minute rule in my own work.
Yeah.
I will finish the day on a 2-minute note. So I will go, okay, well, what can I do in 2 minutes? So it might be starting a post. Like I might be in Canva and I start a post, and that takes 2 minutes. So then the next day I can apply 2 minutes and I can download it and post it and do a voiceover or whatever I need to do with that
Mm-hmm.
post. But that's breaking even that down into 2 minutes. Or, I'm in the process of building my online course. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, today I did a document that's part of a download, and it was just instructions, and it literally took me 2 minutes. Like it's just,
Yeah.
it can be applied in every part of your life. And I just think I've landed on some gold here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like you explained it a little bit differently. I did hear it once before in a book, but it was more like to get people starting new habits. So he kind of used it
Yep.
slightly differently, and it was sort of like if you're wanting to become the person that goes to the gym, he would say,
Yep.
then just to give credit, I think it's Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Oh, yes. Yep. Read that
Yeah.
one.
And he says then you need to like do the first 2 minutes first for maybe a week. So you like put your shoes on and then get
Yes.
out the door. Maybe even go to the gym, but don't work out and go back home. But just to like get into that habit of like doing those first 2 minutes to like start the new habit and become that
And
person.
I guess like it is the same thing, because really, like in both situations, it's
Yeah.
actually just about starting.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. It's just
Yeah.
this. It's just starting, and like everything. It's amazing, like how what I do relates to. It's exactly the same as if you were wanting to get fit and go to the
Yeah.
gym,
Yeah.
or if you were wanting to lose the weight, or it's the same. They're all the same. Like it's just starting with those small steps
Mm-hmm.
and mastering them, and
Yeah.
then maybe then you increase that. So yeah, it is totally the same thing.
Yeah. Have you heard? I remember hearing a study too when you were talking about work and applying this 2 minute rule, like you start the 2 minutes and then you make yourself stop and you put it away. Like let's say, for example, in my life, if I'm doing like an edit for a video, I'll just
Yep.
get all the files in there and at least start, like you said as well,
Yep.
start a document. But then
Yes.
when you force stop it, the moment you return to it the next day, you're like back into the flow. And I don't know who
Yes.
did this study, but I was like, wow, that's awesome. And I felt it in my own life. Like, I'm like, okay, stop, pause it. And then when you get back into it, because you were like in the middle of editing this cut, then you're like straight back into the flow of how you, yeah, were when you did it.
Yeah, I've actually done that myself. So I've done it in a bit longer though. I've done it in, like, so say you've got an hour. So when I've got
Mm,
some bigger projects on, I will I operate this way. So
yeah.
say you've got an hour's block. Well, I will set my timer and I'll work for say 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But then when that 45-minute timer goes off, then I stop and I actually get up and I walk away from the office.
Yeah.
I like to come outside because it's like a reset.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will either go back in and do another 45 minutes of that particular project, but you go back in with, like you just said, like it's fresh eyes.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a bit like I find it's like a creative reboost,
Yeah.
reboot, I should say, because I find you can actually get bogged down sometimes in your head. Like it's like you can I don't know about you, but I can overthink things, or I can get stuck on something. And if I don't remove myself from that situation, it just, again, you said it before, it becomes a bit like a downward spiral. And I find that
Mm,
things move slower. But if I actually step away and have a reboot, and sometimes in that 15 minutes, I will find a spot outside and put a picnic blanket down and read a book. So
yeah.
I'll
That's
actually
awesome.
shift to something completely different. So I'll take my head away from it completely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a good way to get through books.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like if I just sit and read 10 pages or a chapter, it helps me
Yeah.
get through the books as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's segue back to like clearing space in the home or office. Do
Yeah.
you find being on that journey, like, has your focus improved to be able to do like a 40 minute, 45-minute work slot, or like what else has been the benefits for you personally, or even with people? Like you said, the looks changed, but I'm curious for more things that you
So
might have seen.
so what I've found, so I'll start with me and then I can, so a couple
Yeah.
of things that have changed in my life is definitely focus.
Mm.
Just looking at my business started in, I think it was March 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm heading towards the 2-year mark. And I just look back on where I started and, where I was to where I am now. And I'm just surging forward at the moment. I just feel like there's so much more clarity and focus. So yes, there is the focus there on what I'm doing. And I feel like that's all come with this journey. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
more you declutter your physical space, absolutely has an impact on your mental space.
Mm.
And, the more space you can clear mentally, the more you can actually take in.
Yeah.
And not only that, your creativity. I mean, you would know this because you're a creative as well. Like your
Yeah.
creativity just starts to explode.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know if you've heard this, but I hear people all the time saying, "Oh, but I'm not creative," and it's like, yes, you are.
I know,
We
it
are
makes me
all
angry.
creative. And like I think they think it's in a visual arts kind of way, or
Yeah.
but it's not. There are so many different ways that people can be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like a
when
lawyer
you
has to be creative in their
absolutely.
negotiations. Like it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, yeah, very broad term that people have kind of
It
narrowed
really
down and made
is.
something that you're born with.
Yeah. Like I think, it's something that's ingrained in us, that it's got to do with color and, it's like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, there's so many ways that we can be creative.
yeah,
But that's one of the biggest, if you want to call it a side effect, I think it's a pretty good
yeah,
side effect.
yeah,
And another one is one of the ones that really, I guess, stopped me in my tracks was how it improves your relationships.
yeah,
So, you take away that stress and that overwhelm, particularly in your own home, how it improves your relationships. Like you just become a better person. You
yeah,
become lighter. Like I said about that customer I had, like your sense of humor comes to the
yeah,
surface. And that's really important when it comes to maintaining relationships,
yeah,
is having that light, fun, sense of humor, having those laughs. I
yeah,
felt, for me, I knew for a long, long time I didn't have that. I'd lost my sense of humor because it was just, there was no room for it.
yeah.
But now I like to dance in the kitchen, much to my son's disgust, but
It is though, isn't
sometimes he'll
it? It's,
join
I
me.
think, now I don't know the scientific reason behind this, but I feel like it does, creating space in all aspects of life, it heightens our senses back up again. So then you're like more receptive and aware of the small joys in life. And I feel like that's what gets zapped out of you when you like go towards depression as well. Like that's what, and I've been
Yeah.
researching languishing. So languishing is what I think I ended up living through for a while, which
Yeah.
isn't quite depression, but it's close to slipping into that when you're kind of like just not excited about your life. And you're sort of just,
Yeah, I've
yeah. And a lot
experienced
of
that.
people have this with their work, right? They're just kind
Yeah.
of sitting there because they don't really know what else they could do. They think they
It's
have
kind of
to.
like, would you say it's a feeling of feeling numb and
Yeah.
feeling a little bit stuck, or you're very much stuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like doing this work just helps you just let go, like just shake it out in your body as well.
Yes.
And you have space to breathe. Yeah, I find it
Yeah, yeah.
incredible.
And that just all of that alone, like that, that feeling lighter, that finding a sense of humor, all of that energizes you. It brings your
Yeah.
energy back.
Yeah.
Um, it's like, it's not dissimilar to, the people that you surround yourself with. So this is a really good, I love this analogy. Like, so, when you surround yourself with good people and you go
Mhm.
out and you have lunch with them or whatever, and you come away feeling totally energized, versus the other way, when you go out with people who just, I don't know, they just bring you down or they just feel heavy.
Yeah.
it's the same as the space you create around you. It's exactly the same. It nurtures you in such a way that it nurtures you only when it's looked after and that perhaps there is enough space there to nurture you. But when it's full or when it's weighted down by stuff, it is literally dragging you down. It's making you feel like, you've got no energy. Everything feels hard and heavy. But when your space is light and easy and spacious, you feel energized and you feel like there's so many more options and possibilities in your life. It's just such a great feeling. Like,
Yeah. Like I even find I have more time because there's less distractions and all that too.
Oh, you totally do. Just simply by being able to find things that you need straight away. That's, or you've got less items that you need to take, you need to tend to, because everything we bring into our home is purely 100% our responsibility. So the less you have around you, and by no means am I a minimalist, but the less you have around you, the less you're responsible for and the less time you have to put into it. Like, let's
debunk
relative.
that. Let's take a little step, actually. Let's debunk that a little bit, because I feel like my mom is someone that and I love her dearly, is like, she loves running. She collects all the running shoes. She loves art. She has all our art from when we were kids still, like all that kind of stuff. Like she has a full home. But the thing is, and she doesn't like to clear things out. Like whenever I've mentioned it, or she's really proud when she does, which is cool. I love you, Mum.
Yeah, but it's a good start.
What I see is as well is like when I mention it to others though too, people become resistant when you talk about it, when they think you do have to be a minimalist for it to work, right? But really, I like the word essentialist better, because it's more like the essence and things that you need for your values in your life, right? Like you tailor it to you and just get rid of all the other crap. Like you might think you need it all now, but like there's so many things that you could let go of. Like, trust me.
Absolutely. One thing I say to people, and again, they probably think I'm crazy, but I always say, listen to what your stuff is telling you. So our stuff, anything in our home, and I mean anything and everything, is sending us a message of some sort. So it's either negative or positive. And just even by doing that exercise, just by being aware of that, it doesn't mean you have to become a minimalist. It means that you're surrounding yourself by more yeses than nos. You know what I mean? Like there are items that I'm sure if you close your eyes now, I'm sure you could actually think of one item in your home that's not talking to you nicely or giving you negative messages.
Yeah.
That could be gone. You know what I mean? Like, and that, and so negative items could be like an unwanted gift. It could be something that you've got and it's broken.
Yeah.
The negative messaging coming from that is, when are you going to fix me? I've been sitting here for 3 years. That's a negative message. So, what you can do there is you can either choose to fix it or you can choose to move it on.
Actually, there's a brilliant exercise. I've been in a container in a mastermind with women to kind of future leap, she calls it.
Yeah.
So we leap into like the future self that we imagine us being. And one of the exercises was exactly this. Like, she's like, scan your environment. And if there's something she put it into classes, like if there's something that's economy class, not first class,
I love it.
Go. Yeah. Because like
that.
we're wanting to up level ourselves, right? We're wanting to grow, we're wanting to expand. And if nothing is like in this first class level, and this doesn't mean like money value at all. Like,
no, I'm actually envisaging a balloon, like going up in a hot air balloon.
Yeah.
That's what I saw when you started saying this. I'm like, that's right. Throw it over the edge. So you've got less, so you're not lighter.
But it's like the class is personally to you, right? Like if it's first class to you and it's an old sweater that you've worn for 10 years, but you freaking love it, keep it. Like if you wear it all the time and you're just so in love with it, that's first class then to you. You know what I mean?
It's the same with clothes. Like, clothes is a classic example of this. Is, when you stand in front of your wardrobe, if there is an item in there that you're avoiding because last time you wore it, you just hated it, you just didn't feel great in it, why is it still in there? Like, and every time you go to open your wardrobe, that dress or that particular item, it's screaming at you. You don't even realize it, but it's screaming at you saying, why aren't you wearing me? When are you going to wear me next? What's wrong with me? Get it out. Just have, just like you were just saying about, why not step out and feel first class in what you're wearing every time you leave the home? Why not, when you open your cupboard doors, feel first class, with what's staring back at you, instead of feeling weighted down by, oh, those mugs, they're so ugly, but so-and-so gave that to me.
Now I feel like for someone listening too, I think because we can get in our heads about this, and if you're already overwhelmed, like just overthinking, it's not going to work. So I feel like we do, because I help people get into their bodies to then listen to their body's messaging more. Like you're saying, like, does it feel heavy? What is it? What's that? I'm going to call it a mindset shift, but I guess like also like focus shift, I guess, to the body. Or what is that shift that you do with people when you work with them that you see the most success in then down the track? Like, is there, like when I'm talking about future leaping, like, is there like a vision that you create with them that they then uphold to? Or is there like what's the, apart from letting go of things and decluttering the space, is there something there that you can add to what you would do?
Yes, I guess how I work with people is, it comes back to, I guess it comes back to things like the 2-minute rule. So I talk to people so most people initially, when I start working with them, just want to get one whole space done. And that doesn't work. Like I used to be like that. So, that can generally become worse before it becomes better, or you start on a space, you pull everything out and it stays that way. It can stay that way for weeks. So I guess one of the biggest mindset shifts that I work on with people is guiding them through the benefits of starting small. So breaking it down into literally just one thing. So, or focusing on just one area. So one area doesn't necessarily mean, say, for example, the pantry. One area could mean the top 2 shelves of the pantry. It's really bringing it back to small, doable and achievable, and making it easy for them, because the one thing I don't want them to feel when I'm working with them is overwhelmed. They're already feeling overwhelmed. They're feeling overwhelmed, and that's why they contacted me. Is my first thing is to take away that overwhelmed feeling. And the easiest way I've found is to help them with that mindset shift of, I don't need to do it all. I just need to do this one small area. It's and then through the time that we spend together, I teach them about how it is actually like a lifestyle change. It's about it's not about dumping things. It's about creating a home for things. So it's literally a lifestyle change. It's about creating a home for things. It's about creating a flow for things. We're never going to stop things from coming in, because we're humans. We have friends, we have birthdays, there's so many, you have stuff coming home from school. There's always going to be stuff coming in. But what we can do with a mindset shift is if we look at it as creating a flow, that changes everything. We don't want things to get stuck. We want them to keep moving. So I work with people to put simple things in place to make that happen. And some of those simple things in place are, well, I've said it a few times, is finding a home for things. When you find a home for things, it actually becomes easier mentally and physically. So physically, because you know where that item belongs, you know where to put it, you don't have to think about it. And then that leads into the mental side of things, is you're not using that brain space or that extra energy to know where something is, because you already just know. Another thing that I always get people to do is to have a place to put items as they identify they no longer want to keep them. So instead of like doing a big space and taking a big load to the secondhand shop or wherever it needs to go, I encourage them to create a home for those items one at a time. So, you could be in the kitchen and you find that there's some coffee mugs or a bowl or an appliance that you're not using anymore. So then they can actually just be moved one at a time into that box or into that space. And that's about keeping that flow going without any overwhelm entering the situation.
God, I love that so much. That is so profound.
Yeah,
Like
and
even,
then
oh, sorry, continue.
yeah, no, just and then one other tip I can share with your listeners is
Mm.
in your wardrobe. So we talked about standing in front of your wardrobe, is hanging a tote bag or a shopping bag on a coat hanger. And same thing, you're standing in front of your wardrobe. If there's a dress in there that you absolutely know you're not going to wear again, take it off the hanger and pop it into the bag that's hanging in your wardrobe. So that, I find that makes it so much easier and more achievable for people to get into that new lifestyle change. Like they get into when they learn to get into that flow, the whole thing works. It just makes life easier and it makes everything work on a continuous basis.
Yes. Gosh, and that even, I was thinking of decision fatigue. I don't want to, I'm trying to be wary of the time, but
yeah, that's another whole podcast.
Yeah, I know we could have another whole hour on that. But
yeah,
when you were saying like giving everything a home, I literally felt like a sigh in my body, being like, yes. Like,
yes,
because then you know where it is. You don't have to think about where it is, or like even when you are cleaning too, you know where to put it.
Yes.
And that in my mind as well led me to the decision fatigue, because that was one more decision that you don't have to make that day, which is like so important. Yeah,
because you get to a point where you literally don't even have to think about it. You know where it is.
Yeah. Gosh, this is brilliant. Thank you, Kylie. And so practical. I love that about you.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I love sharing this because I don't know, it's my passion to get as many people on board as possible. I just literally, as you mentioned in the introduction, I literally want people to come out from under their stuff, because it's weighing us down as a society. There's just so much of it. And I want to see people, I don't know, lighten the load, lift the weight, and come out from underneath and really explore what's out there for them, because there is so much more to life than stuff.
Let's make this cultural shift happen.
yeah, let's do it.
Because then I feel like you're inclined to then consume less overall as well. But also, I love the fact that, which I'll touch on as well before we finish, I love the fact that you tell them a different way to remove the products. Like you're not just throwing them in the bin. You're also maybe giving them a new life. Or I've found in my own life too, like looking at things where I'm a bit unsure. I'm like, oh, should I get rid of that? I kind of like it. But then if I think of someone else really enjoying it, then I'm like, oh, hell yeah, pass it on. Like let that flow go.
Yeah. And that's a big part of what I'm doing. I actually am in the process of building my own directory, which I would like to see. I would like to see it go national, but let's just, because there is actually
claim it.
There is actually a lot of national companies doing good things with repurposing, reusing and recycling items. And not just national companies, there's also there's a lot of organizations that need items, and they, when you know that you're handing your good quality secondhand items over to someone who's in need, that just leaves you with such a great feeling. And it's such a great thing to teach our kids as well. Even getting your kids to pass on their clothes to maybe one of their friends' siblings, like younger siblings, like it can be such a rewarding experience. And
I've got one. If you have lots of teacups, take them to a school staff room. Apparently they always run out.
That's a great one. Yeah, no, that's perfect. I volunteer at a homeless shelter, and that's exactly what they need. They need coffee mugs, teaspoons and forks.
Oh, yes, because there's stuff that just goes missing. Hey, if you're like catering to people.
Exactly.
Not that they purposely pocket them, but they're probably just like unconsciously putting in the bag. Like I used to do that with uni. You'd have little kitchens there, and then I'd take the kitchen cutlery home, and I'm like, whoops. I bring it back when I remembered.
When you remember. When you notice in your own drawer you've got an odd collection there.
You're like, where did that come from? Oh, well, thank you so much, Kylie. I've loved this and I could talk to you all day. You know that.
Yeah, exactly.
um, I'll try and wrap it up now, though. But yeah, for anyone that is willing to dive into this and wants to work with you, tell them where they can find you, please.
Oh, look, the easiest place to find me is my website. So my website is thespaciouslife.com.au. And all my social links are on there. So I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, just drop me a DM, say hello, follow along for some simple tips and tricks. There's plenty out there that will help get you going, that's for sure.
Yay, thank you so much. And I'll put those like links in the description, you guys, so you can just click if that makes it easier.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jackie. I love this. I love chatting about it because it's,
Yeah.
oh, like you said, I could talk about it for days.
Yeah. That was so cool. So that was Kylie Thorley from Spacious Life on Instagram, and you heard her where to find her. My main key takeaways from this were to start with 2 minutes. So setting a timer and just getting going, especially when it comes to clearing space in my house, because I am one to procrastinate on that for sure. Like I said as well, I don't always go through the ideas of like paper piles of ideas that I have. That's just how I think. I scribble things down. It makes me process my thoughts as well. So the second key takeaway I'm going to implement, which I'm going to start today, is giving everything a home. So giving everything a place to live in the house as well, because that I find helps me clear that white space around the item as well. So then when it has that home, I always know where to put it. I always know where to find it. And it makes life so much easier because I definitely do find myself struggling with decision fatigue. I'm not going to get too much into human design, but my best way to make decisions is listening to that instinctual hit. So like little voice that comes into my head. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. But when I find myself in a cluttered space too, I struggle hearing that little voice because everything else is sort of distracting me and I have thoughts about all the things around me. And yeah, this will truly help me, I think, hone in that skill and listen internally more to my decisions and what I'm going to do next. I hope you guys take something away from it as well. I hope you jump in and work with her if you want someone to hold your hand through it. She's there. I know she's developing a program, so that might be ready by the time you hear this. Follow her on Instagram to see the details on that. She's very active on there. And follow us on Instagram, so myself on Release to Revive, which is where you learn all about up-leveling your energy so you can master your life, so you can show up, 10x your impact, love your life and your body, and feel incredible doing so. I'm here, Jackie Gith, as your host. And as always, breathe and be brave, my friends.